we are live. I hope so. I hope you can hear me, guys. Let's assume you do. If not, please write in chat that you don't. Welcome, everyone. Oh my God, I'm pretty tired today, but I couldn't help myself but to finally get online. I've been in a long personal trip to Germany. Shout out to the fan that I met on the way there, to Sebastian. Thank you so much for meeting me there, and thank you for a great talk. That was awesome. And I want to thank to all of the people from Germany for creating such a nice atmosphere. A lot of really positive vibes we're getting thanks to the government changes, and just generally speaking, I overall it was great. But enough with that. Enough with me having a good time. Let's talk about serious stuff that is actually happening with Ukraine. But before we start doing that, we are gonna be talking and thinking. We're gonna be thanking our moderating team, because without the moderating team, as you very much know, this channel would not be what it is. They are responsible for having this community, removing any unwanted troll comments, and allowing us to have nice and clear discussions on any topic. So let's start today's stream. And we're going to start with something that I've seen people discuss over the time, and I really wanted to tackle because I feel there is a lot of misunderstanding. And that is what is happening in Belgorod region, and kind of in parallel, what is happening in the Kursk region. And for that, wrong one. I need my face here. This one. So I think we can start with Kursk region before we can proceed to talking about Belgorod. But long story short, Ukraine has also entered Belgorod region. This has now been confirmed. Russians have tried A, denying it, B, they tried to show all of the videos and pictures with destroyed Ukrainian vehicles and trying to represent that, oh, no, any kind of Ukrainian activity was already thwarted and Ukrainians are being destroyed. Yet just today, right a little bit of time before the stream, we actually got some additional confirmation that Ukrainians have actually advanced even further than it was expected. But let's go step by step. And first and foremost, I would like to start tackling this from the message from the channel that is called Arrows and Maps. It's a Russian military analyst, and he, I think, summarized the things that were happening in Kursk region very nicely, mostly because there were appearing messages here and there, messages like these. I hope you can see this one, right? So like la 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 la, there is supposedly a report from the Institute of Study of War that the armed forces of Ukraine attack in Kursk region was the completely disastrous operation. And I already explained that it wasn't disastrous operation, that the whole operation was very beneficial for Ukraine, that they did achieve a lot by thwarting the Russian offense towards Sumy, by allowing Ukraine to pull some of the Russian troops away from the eastern side, and finally, as you can see now, allowing Ukraine to stabilize the eastern front line. While there are some small movements here and there, in general, like big threats such as encirclement of Pokrovsk are all but gone by this point. Whereas like this propaganda piece obviously just kind of tries to represent it. And the main question remained was whether or not how long will be Ukraine able to stay in Kursk. We now know that they couldn't hold in Kursk. There was various reasons for that. And the only kind of last thing that propagandists were still hoping to, grasp and try to, in the last breath of this narrative, to twist and turn that it wasn't like this such a disastrous problem for Russia, that Ukraine didn't hold the Russian territory for almost a year. No, that it was all great and it was a disastrous mission for Ukraine, and therefore they're trying to present it like, oh no, such a bad campaign that Ukraine had. But coming back to the main point of the operation, I'm really trying to find it. There's like thousands different messages. Just a second. Yes, there we go. So yes, so it's from the Russian-speaking channel Maps and Arrows. I covered this kind of in a video. I have a recording for that in a video, but I never released it. So instead, I'm just going to cover it now. So he talks about the specifically trying to tackle the BBC article that came out in kind of same way. I know we're talking about propaganda narratives, but BBC is not helping really by taking the phrases like everything is finished, Ukrainian troops leave Kursk, then it was a disaster, a catastrophe, yada yada, and posting a picture of Ukrainians being devastated. So this all helps Russian narratives that it supposedly this operation was disastrous. Yet we would like to start by looking at the facts. So what is aimed here that even stated in the article itself that a few days ago we received an order to leave the defensive lines and retreat in an organized manner, the soldiers said on March 11. So that means that the order to leave Kursk was actually issued around March 8th or 9th, and it was an order, an actual order from the command. It wasn't some kind of a, collapsing front line and Ukrainians just run for their lives. No, it was a dedicated order to withdraw. So we already can state that this was potentially an organized mission and there were already preparations done. For example, like the bulk of equipment already being evacuated as much as they could from the Kursk region. We see that confirmed by the fact that the videos that Russians are posting are relatively low scale. We don't see like big stockpiles of Ukrainian ammunition storages or Ukrainian vehicle storages. We see like maybe a couple of tens of captured and mostly that equipment is damaged, with here and there something that is still is able to function properly. So the so to say this narrative of Russian that supposedly it was a collapse of frontline in Kursk for Ukraine doesn't really get confirmed by the videos that we see. And now it's also confirmed that Ukrainians are stating that there was a dedicated order to withdraw around the March 8th and 9th. They are stating that in Kursk region, 70,000 Russian soldiers were advancing on the Ukrainian side with 12,000 people fought, which is, I talked about 3 to 4 people ratio to 1. Here is more like 5 to 6 ratio to 1. So it's a lot different. So he states here that until March 8, 12,000 Ukrainians held back onslaught of 70,000 Russian troops, which is, to be honest, not an insignificant number when you think about this. Then he talks about that their car got struck with a drone, and this is again very, very much in line with what we know, that the main reason why Ukrainians started withdrawing from the Kursk area is that Russians and the use of the Russian drones on optical wire guidance has really significantly hindered Ukrainian logistics in the area, and it was painful for Ukrainians to stay there. And basically they're confirming that they were trying to get out, but they got struck by the drone. But then they said they got rescued after the 2 hours waiting period. And the owner of this channel, the Maps and Arrows, he states that 2 hours waiting time for an evac transport when you are being hit during evacuation is not actually such a big wait. Then it says that many Ukrainians walked 15 to 20 kilometers. Again, this is not something unseen, but most importantly, they are stating that the information about the evacuation was well known and this was indeed happening. But most importantly, he's summarizing it all, that there was a dedicated order, that Ukrainians were able to get out most of the equipment, that Russians have not posted anything that they captured a lot. And most importantly, while a lot of Ukrainians had to withdraw on foot, in general, it was orderly and there was no... despite the fact that Russians posted a lot of video of FPV drones striking vehicles, there was little to no videos of Russians and Ukrainians engaging in some kind of a ground combat up until Russians hit the Ukrainian defensive line closer to the border. Therefore, it's almost fully confirmed that while obviously this is war, so nothing is easy. Let's be very clear. Nothing is easy. Nothing is painless. There are people dying. There are people being captured, people being executed. It's not unseen. But in general, this was an orderly withdrawal. And a lot of this is actually confirmed by the some of the Russian propagandists as well, that are brave enough to acknowledge that what was happening in Kursk wasn't really that beneficial for Russia. So in the end, we see an operation where Ukrainians entered Kursk. They conducted an operation when the situation became unmanageable and it didn't really make sense to hold it more because of the change of the formation and having a lot of the concentrated Russian forces. They withdrew in a relatively orderly manner. That's it. Like, and this is where we're getting, like, this is the facts on the ground. And in reality, we see Russians trying to twist and turn it, that it's supposedly some kind of a disastrous operation. It obviously was not. There are certain experts that are still critiquing Ukraine for this operation and evaluating whether it was good, whether it was bad. But those people, they have been critiquing Ukraine for forever. So we've seen that Ukraine is still standing, and they are still writing stuff about Ukraine. Anyway, let's move to the second part of the discussion. What about the offensive into Belgorod? Well, let's open our dear deep state map. So what we need to understand is that this is everything that is left right now of the Kursk bridgehead. Russians have been pushing extensively towards the eastern part, towards the western part. They have been trying to get mostly to this location specifically. This is the road that is still supplying some of the Ukrainians that are holding these strong positions in the Kursk region. There are some really nice heights along the border with Russia, and Ukrainians are holding it to make sure to not make it easy for the Russians to just go and capture the border region. They were not having a good time, but they were still a lot of Russians and North Koreans concentrated in the area. So when finally Ukrainians launched an additional offensive towards the border town, I think there was a lot of weird reporting on it, where they stated that it looks like Ukrainians are trying to attack Russia in different place, but that is not what we saw the composition of. We saw the composition of maybe like 20 vehicles, at least if we can judge by the Russian videos. There was mine-laying equipment, engineering equipment. Ukraine basically launched an attack with Ukrainian soldiers riding light vehicles such as ATVs and buggies, and their engineering vehicles going in front and clearing out any kind of pyramids and mines areas, after which Ukrainians on these fast-moving vehicles, they were moving through these open areas. This was all captured on the Russian drones, and it was reported, as I said, that supposedly everything that was done by Ukrainians has been thwarted, and there is no pressure right now. However, that's not the case. We definitely know that there was pressure on the settlement of Davidovka and Grafovka, these two. And just today, we actually got a confirmation that Demirovka, this one over here, is supposedly being controlled by the Ukrainian armed forces, which means that Ukrainians not only broke through the defensive formations, the pyramids, some initial trenches, some minefields, but also reached some of the first settlements of the Russia, and they're actually even taking control of them right now. That means that this assault hasn't stopped, and it is going forward. However, what I want to note that it's obviously is not going as fast as something like a breakthrough around the Kursk region. However, this might be just the start of it. Maybe they will send more vehicles, but I would not expect it, because most likely what we're seeing right now is just a distraction campaign. Basically, right now there is a lot of forces that Russia has accumulated in this region right over here. Let me choose the red for Russia. So a lot of forces is accumulated in this region and try to push towards the border with Ukraine and potentially then enter even Ukrainian territory of Sumy. But Ukrainians would still prefer to fight Russians on the territory of Russia. That's why there was a little bit of a thrust to get Russian maybe to divert a little bit of these forces and maybe fight towards Demirovka and Grafivka right over here on the territory of Russia. So I would not put too much effort in this, mostly because Russia has forces in the area that it can dedicate to thwart any potential Ukrainian breakthrough. So for Ukraine to break into depth would require a lot of resources, and it potentially could be very quickly dismantled. But it will hopefully distract more of these Russian forces and prevent them from entering the territory of Ukraine and continue fighting on the territory of Ukraine, therefore allowing Ukraine to continue fighting Russians on the territory of Russia, which is again great deal and great news. So overall, Ukrainians are doing pretty good job, and they are continuously trying to be active in their operations against Russia. And I hope this more or less explains what exactly is happening right now in Belgorod region. But we're going to tackle some other things. Most notably, I want to also talk about the Witkoff's interview with Tucker Carlson. We're going to talk about it just a bit later. But first, I would like to answer some of the questions that you have and interact, because we haven't been interacting for a while, and I think it would be super helpful if I can answer some of the questions. Morocco is asking, hi Georgies, when is Europe going to fully step up to the plate and go all in for Ukraine? I mean, Morocco, I wanted this to be the case for a while ago. We see that Europeans are stepping up. We see that the amounts of help are being allocated to Ukraine is increasing. Generally, we see Europeans being pretty steadfast in their support. We checked kind of the calendar for elections of Europe. So it seems that there's going to be a relative stability in the European political scenes, in the big players that are supporting Ukraine. So there will not be like a major threat for the next 2.5 years, at least from this point, which is great news. And especially, I explained this, mentioned this in the last video, that in Europe, we were always lacking the locomotive in Europe, like some country that would drive us forward. And now with the new Chancellor Merz coming in and setting this high ambition for changes inside of the German investments into the military industry, this could motivate the whole European countries to go forward. There is, of course, right now discussion about the fact that this is going to be a debt. There's going to be a debt crisis. That it's going to be Germany again investing in Germany. Yada yada. It's Europeans bickering about European things. It's pretty insane that is still happening. But I see that we are more and more drifting towards the concepts of coalition of the willing, which on one side is destroying kind of this sense of unity within Europe, but on the other side, it's kind of like the actual evolution if we want anything done. Because Europe is being challenged right now that we can be united, but then we cannot do shit. And that is good what is happening right now in my perspective, because we need to do more, and we cannot just stand by and do nothing. Peter Vinichuk, did you announce your super secret plan yet that you have alluding to for months? No, but as I said, you will see everything. There are a very limited number of people that know what I'm talking about. So for them, they will be just looking at me talking about this and giggling happily that they know these secrets. So I'm sorry that I'm keeping these from you, but you will see and hear everything very soon for yourself. Believe me, you will like it very much. The Japanese name person that I still have no idea what you mean, what your name means, but thank you so much for being a supporter. I understand why Hungary is blocking the EU 40 billion military support package for Ukraine, but why are France and Spain blocking it too? Mostly like it's with regards to the issues with credits, so that a lot of that is going to be financed by loans, and Spain has issues with loans, that the other countries are very openly taking the loans because they had a bad memory with regards to the financial crisis, and that they were one of the the Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Spain country group that was having a little bit of that issues. So they're kind of like accusing and saying that a lot of the Central European states like Germany are abusing this system to benefit their country, and they're being left behind. And secondly, that France is still very much hoping that all of the money that Europe is going to be spending is going to be spent specifically on the European produce, which that 40 billion package was not really supporting fully. It said that potentially a lot of the equipment could still be bought from the third parties. So right now there is going to be more discussion about this. But that's the point. So it's not ideological. It's more about misunderstanding on where people want to spend things. We just cannot agree. There is a Camille says French here. It's because we have a big deficit and debt, like the Italians and Spaniards. It's difficult to have a 40 billion package without a common loan. Yeah, exactly. Like so it's basically like it's a issue of financing. So. MC, do Latvians worry about Russians trying to do aggressive actions in Latgalia and trying to get them away from Latvia? Well, Latgalia is Latvia, so like your statement doesn't really make sense. Like actions in Latgalia and trying to get them away from Latvia, so that doesn't really make sense because Latgalia is Latvia. So like taking part of Latvia by Russians, that if that was what you mean, then that's what it is, that Russia is trying to take part of Latvia. And yes, that's why Latvia is increasing its budget, like its spending to, I believe they're aiming at over 5% of GDP. And that's why they're considering also laying like all of the mines on the border and so on. So yes, Latvia is very seriously taking. No one in Latvia has forgotten Abrana, and no one will ever forget it. I explained the incursion at the beginning. HRM, any idea how many troops are involved within the Belgorod situation? Well, we saw 20 vehicles, so most likely at least a couple of battalions, but I wouldn't expect that it's going to be much more. Maybe a brigade or like at least parts of a couple of brigades, maybe. Some forces within those brigades. So not a lot. Not like it's a major offensive. Papa Kale, Georgie, is there a ceasefire of sorts? What's the status on that? There is no ceasefire. Like there is not expected a ceasefire. Putin is playing games with Trump, just trying to find a way how he can prevent US to supply weapons to Ukraine. There is a possibility of ceasefire because Russians do need some kind of a break, but most likely it seems that Putin mostly wants to play game rather than tackle some actual issues. So I'm I wouldn't be hopeful for a ceasefire. It's more of a joke and naive dream of some weird people that are expecting Putin to suddenly realize that oh no, yeah, we should totally respect human lives or something. Absolute nonsense. Look, like think about it this way. So after Trump had this conversation with Putin, the only thing that Putin proposed was the stopping of firing off against the energy infrastructure. And that's important because in the American statement, they said that they agree on a ceasefire on infrastructure and energy, like on energy and other infrastructure. But in Russian language statement, they said we agreed to stop firing only on the energy infrastructure. So specifically, and the energy infrastructure in Russian mind is oil refineries, like oil facilities. And then the second thing that Putin wants to agree is that there is no offensive operations in the sea because Russia right now is, surprise, losing the sea battle. So the only ceasefire propositions that Putin put on the table here is where he's getting his ass handed to him. We had a fucking hockey game. Yeah. The main problem of that we're gonna talk, like when we're gonna talk about Witkoff and his interview with Tucker Carlson. The main problem with all of the discussion in the Trump's phone call is that majority of that phone call was more about discussing how U.S. and Russia can reinstate their relationship rather than how they can deal with the war. So that's everything that you need to know. They're looking for a reset button. Like I was almost fucking expecting that Trump says, I looked the man in the eye and I saw that he wants to end this war. Like, I really expected that phrase. If it would come, I would be like, mwah, great. Like, totally didn't happen before. Like, oh my God, who does he remind me of? What does this phrase remind me of? Oh my God. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to make a joke, but I'm Googling too slow. But like, pretend that you're like still following the joke. Okay? So like, yeah, like, oh, what was that it reminds me of? Yeah. Okay. Totally joke timing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Joke timing. Yeah. And everyone laughs now, right? So, yeah, Hillary Clinton and big relaunch red button with Lavrov. Look how happy she is. Aw. You see? Oh. She looked into his eyes and saw a great man. Saw a man that is worth of trust. That's U.S. diplomacy in a nutshell, and it's like, it's not going in circles. It's definitely not going to repeat itself, because totally Russia, like, I mean, even the representative from the Russian side is the same. Like, it's literally the same. Jesus, it's so funny. Okay, yeah, I know my joke timing is perfect. Thank you for all the compliments. I appreciate it. So yeah. Trump is doing his best Hillary Clinton impression. True. Stephen Witkoff, yes, we're gonna go over the interview a little bit later. We're gonna look at the transcript and we're gonna basically answer the questions that Carlson asked to Witkoff, and we're gonna tackle them. Have you seen Paul Warburg's latest Icarus project video about the total misinterpretation of the war? No, I haven't. Icarus project. It is something... I haven't seen it. Maybe I will see. Nice haircut. Thank you. Americanos Greece. Russia will never confront Zelensky. No face-to-face peace talks will never happen. They know that they entered Ukraine as a theft, as a murderous shame. Slava Ukrainian, in Jesus' name. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, that's... Sava Junkie. What will collapse first? Putin's regime and Russian economy? I've asked this question a lot. I said that it's a bit optimistic to expect that things will just collapse. I think we should expect better negotiating positions for Ukraine, and their main negotiating group is the Ukrainian armed forces, so we should support the Ukrainian armed forces. They are very efficient at negotiating with the Russians. They were able to convince over 900,000 Russians to potentially stop participating in this war. Super efficient. Much more efficient than Trump's ceasefire, by the way. Edigius Kirinas. Hi, Georgie. What is your opinion about the rumors that Russia might attack Lithuania during the summer, as there will be 100 Russian troops in Belarus for joint training? Nonsense. Dave Bowen. What is going on in the south? Is Ukraine pushing Russia back? No, not really. I mean, in the relatively small areas, yes, but not like on a major scale. They're winning some tactical positions, but Russia is right now regrouping. For example, Ukraine pushed back at Russia significantly around Toretsk, which forced Russians to prematurely get some of their forces that they were training beforehand and deploy them on the front lines prematurely without fully training them, and now because they got reinforcements, they're pushing some of the Ukrainians back. It's a push and pull, so you can say that it's a neutralized situation, but most importantly, there are movements both sides right now, so it's a better position that Ukraine was in half a year ago. Dana Vassman Pearson, sorry. I would be livid and confront American officials spewing lies and Russian propaganda, but I guess they can't do that till all the Biden weapons have come, right? Mm, so Dana, let me tell you that. Let me tell you this. So in my time, I'm also talking with a lot of Americans, and the main thing is that for a lot of Americans, and we were talking like maybe I'm putting it a bit wrong, like for a lot of American companies that are working with Europe, United States, they don't really care if it's Trump or Biden or someone else that is steering the economy. And that's the awful truth of commerce, right? It's capitalism. I hope you understand that money, like whenever we're talking money, then a lot of politics takes this backstage to money. And the feel is that there is a lot of desire to have these works with the US companies, and that's why when we're talking about Trump not helping Ukraine, I feel that Ukrainians don't feel that they want to sever all of the connections with the United States. And I know that a lot of your perspectives that like Trump cannot be trusted and so on and so on, but this is the weird side of diplomacy where there is so much desire of regular Americans, regular American companies to either help Ukraine outright or at least have a proper trading connection with Ukraine and help sustain Ukrainian businesses, that there is more layers to the Trump administration and just telling them to F off. That's why like a person like me can say F off to Trump any second that I want. And actually, even if it would be money, I would say still F off. But if we're talking about like for Ukraine and what their diplomacy and what their main diplomat, the chief responsible of the country, should do, I don't think that it would be right for Zelensky to outright sever his connections with the United States, no matter how assholish Trump is. I don't think that he should like absolutely fall in line and just lick Trump's boots, but stand his ground, give space for Trump where it is possible, but try to preserve as much of this goodwill connection with the Americans as possible, and hopefully at least not get Trump to sever everything that is connecting Ukraine and United States. I hope that makes sense, because I almost daily talk with a lot of the people that are working to help Ukraine, like Americans in their personal quantities or as a individual private companies. Yeah, most Americans support Ukraine. 100% true, true, true. Benjamin, do you think Erdogan jailing his main opponents is partially encouraged by Trump's being president and his liking for tough man presidents? Yes, not because of Trump's liking, but because Trump coming to power and what he's doing to the world order. Like, look, Erdogan is not our friend, not democratic friend, not whatsoever. He's the dictator of Turkey and so on. And people like say, oh no, but I love Erdogan and so on. Georgie, you cannot be mad at my dictator because I like him. So like for me, any dictator is an asshole. So that's why Erdogan has never been our friend, and that's why we should not treat him as our friend. But what we need to understand is that Biden, by not supporting Ukraine fully, has created a situation where Putin effectively challenged the world order. The questions of nuclear non-proliferation and question with regards to what kind of a rule-based world order we live in. Because of the weak stance of the European allies, NATO and Biden, to the challenge that was happening in Ukraine, kind of everyone just saw that the jig is up. And for the last couple of years, everyone was already seeing is that like that UN is not working, the international rule-based order is not working, and it's just like a matter of time until everything just collapses to shit. However, when Trump was reelected in the United States, and then he says like NATO is useless, Ukraine, we're not gonna help, our weapons potentially not gonna be present in Europe, stuff like that, like just being completely isolationist, like just stating that alliances, agreements, they don't matter. What matters is the rule of might, and so on. That is basically, he just signed off the full decommissioning of anything that was left of any kind of a rule-based world order. We cannot reinstate back the rule-based world order, like the United Nations, everything. All of that is out of the window. It's gone. It's empty words, empty seats, whatever. It's all facade. Like the whole thing is now rotten and dead. We can build a new one. We can build a new system on the ashes of the old. That is true. Like, we can build it, but it will not be a rebuilding of the old system, because it's never going back to the rebuilding of the old. And we already see this, right? The fact that this is happening, it should be already an absolute tell. Just look at this one. There is a public debate in Canada about the nuclear weapons. Why? Well, because the nuclear non-proliferation works. We're going to cover it again, but like, I don't want to kind of prematurely jump to the, sorry, I have 700 tabs and I forgot to which one. I don't want to prematurely jump to the Witkoff and Carlson interview, because I would like to cover it just a little bit later. I want to answer all the questions. But here, there, for example, talk about, Steve Witkoff says, like, okay, the whole thing. Tucker Carlson, good. So if you don't mind, I'd love to. So here's the timeline, as I understand, as the observer. So now you go over to deliver the president's message. There is a ceasefire in Gaza, which you said 5 times is prerequisite to a lot of the other things. Like, it's hard. And the president says, well, Steve Witkoff, my friend with real estate business, you're like really good at it, send you to Russia. Is that fair? Steve Witkoff, yes, that's the truth. It's not fair, far from the truth. Tucker says, right. It's like, I'm watching this because you, before I was like this in most amazing thing I've seen. I'm cherishing you, by the way, where this and where the conflict says. And he says, I think we made more progress again. Look, Tucker, I'm not saying it. Every evolution comes as a result of President Trump. And I don't get paid to say that. I say it because it's absolute truth. Putin's got a huge respect for president. And, you know, you saw what happened in the Oval Office with Zelensky and the president. Disrespecting him is not a healthy way to have a good relationship. Tucker Carlson says, the arrogance of small countries, it's like, get some perspective. I mean, come on. How can you imagine acting like this? So you see, with little to no acknowledgement, they are just treating Ukraine like this is like a small country, an absolute speck that doesn't really matter at all. But Ukraine is was a world's third most capable nuclear power at the early 90s. It was pressured by the United States and the Russians and other parties to give up its nukes, right? That was the one of the biggest, if not the biggest, steps to nuclear non-proliferation in the world. And now, for everyone, it is clear that no contracts signed with US are worth a damn. No contracts signed with Russia are worth a damn, because Russia is going to break whatever you signed. Trump is breaking already everything that he signed just term before. Moreover, if you give up your nukes, you give up your status as a country. You're treated like a small country, a small nation, useless, absolutely with no regard to why you are there without nukes. So that's it. This also closed one very important thing, that without nukes, you're just a prey. You're just a prey for bigger countries, for big players. And that is what Trump is messaging to Canada right now. And it's not only messaging to Canada. This is just amplifying all throughout the world for every country that is having some kind of a potential neighbor that can threaten their sovereignty. Get nukes or you're screwed. That's it. That's the message. Trump is amplifying the messages of nuclear proliferation. Otherwise, it's a small country, you know. Antonio Pius, thank you so much for 50 bucks. Appreciate it. Yvonne May, thank you so much for being a member for 23 months. I Brag M, thank you so much for being a member for 25 months. Slava Ukraini, Heroям Slava, both of you. H. Saurit, welcome, and thank you all to moderators. Дякую. Thank you so much for being a member for 6 months. Appreciate it. The deliveries Trump illegally stopped, signed by Congress, it started again. Question. But why can't other NATO nations not go pick it all up at once so it cannot be held hostage and drip fed? Well, evil clown. Okay, no, I'm not going to be snarky and an asshole this time. We did a stream about it last time. Well, the thing is, like, if it's a aid that is being allocated by the United States, other countries cannot allocate that aid because they're not the United States. Just me. Georgie, the underlying issue, euro crisis, hasn't been resolved. That's what I'm always talking about. The loans has to come from the ECB, not from state budgets. It's hugely important. Prof flashback. Yes. I agree, by the way. I agree that the loans should come from the ECB. Agree. I think the ECB should be financing and so on. We should be financing, because the biggest argument against the loans is like, oh, Georgie, but like loans are not responsible. Loans, like we cannot repay loans and so on, and then it's going to be a threat potential to some kind of crisis and so on. No one is acting responsible. The whole recovery that US right now is having, it is having it on the backbone of huge loans, right? We're just being smothered by other countries not playing by the rules. And I think it's absolutely hilarious that for some reason we should be playing by the rules. So I totally agree that we should be loaning the shit out of it. Like, it's insane. It's now our place. Like, look, Trump dismantling NATO and the European transatlantic alliance is a disaster of colossal proportions, and it's devastating for the world. The rule of law, everything, the world that we know so far. I already talked about this. But it is also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for strong players to reshape the world, and it is being done. It is being done by China. It is being done by the United States. It is being done, surprisingly, even by Russia, North Korea, Iran, and their evil alliances. We have been smothering European economies because we try to be fair. We try to pretend that we want to be fiscally responsible and so on, whereas all of the other countries were just doing this debt game, either with their internal, like China is absolutely hiding half of their economy for sure, and just how in bad shape it is. But we have been trying to be like fiscally responsible to itself, to everyone, and no one else is playing responsibly. So if we don't want to be stepped on, we need to start acting. The time for playing fair is like when we finish reestablishing this world order. But right now, we need to become stronger and fast. So if we're talking about loans, this is the time when the loans are like really needed for us to grow the muscles really, really fast. Or to talk about to you in like a fitness term, like we cannot do a cutting phase anymore when the tournament for bodybuilding is coming up. We need to get bulk fast. Europe needs NATO. No, Europe doesn't need NATO. Europe needs to have balls. Okay, I'm getting heated up. Woo! Let's not get there. NATO is not working. So what's the point of sustaining concepts that are not working? I agree to use NATO as a platform for a coalition of the willing, like the coalition of countries that want to continue working in a military alliances. But then we should be designing the rules for that coalition of the willing. And then there shouldn't be a country that doesn't want to participate in NATO or protect other countries to dictate whether or not, for example, Ukraine joins that coalition or not. We're in our flux of the world. NATO is part of that flux. Okay. Mhm. Do we already know the outcome of today's negotiations in Saudi Arabia? Oh yeah. Oh, it's glorious. Like, I mean, like, remember I talked to you about that Zelensky need to be diplomatic and like just say something just to get Trump, confident. Look at that. Zelensky on talks in Saudi Arabia. The conversation is quite useful. Mm, quite useful. It's still ongoing. It's quite useful. Nice. That is a statement. That is a statement of a true diplomat. But yeah, I've seen the statements of Yermak after the 5 hours negotiations. I believe they're considering if there might be some kind of energetic ceasefire. Again, remind you guys that Ukraine agreed to a total ceasefire unconditionally. So if Russia wants to have ceasefire on the assets, I think Ukrainians are okay with that. But I feel that there was like additionally elevating the question of children to be attached to it. So we'll see what it's going to lead. But again, don't expect any ceasefires. Like, stop expecting ceasefires. The only proper negotiating team that is able to talk with Russians in the language that they understand is the Ukrainian armed forces. That's the only negotiations I would like us all to mostly follow. Everything else is secondary. Dean Ket, do you think the Norsk will go into Ukraine if Ukrainians leave Russia completely? Do you think the Norks will go into Ukraine if Ukrainians leave Russia completely? I mean, I think like you mean orcs, like so the Russians. If Russians will enter Ukraine if Ukraine leaves Russia completely, yes. I mean, like Russians are in Ukraine. Like what? Huh? Okay, no, I don't know what you. I'm not sure what you mean, but like if you mean if Russians will try to invade into the Sumy region, yes, they will. I am trying to not misinterpret, but like you do realize that okay, no more snarky thing, but the Russians have been fighting on the territory of Ukraine since 2014. North Korean orcs. Ah, Norks is a slang for North Korean orcs. Oh, that's good. That's good. I actually didn't know that. Thank you so much. North Koreans. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Who's gonna stop him? Why would it stop him? Oh, Trump is gonna be pissed. Oh, scary. Oh, what's he's gonna do? Thank you so much for clarifying, chat. Okay, I'm not answering the question what will be after ceasefire because there is no ceasefire. Let's drop the bullshit. Ghost Rider, will Kim Jong-un get jealous if Putin steals Trump away? Okay, never mind. That's some silly. A Sobral, is there any Minsk agreements or any documents signed that says Ukraine couldn't join NATO? No. Cornelis Zangebran, I saw a surge in Russian losses, artillery and logistics in particular, fuel tanks and vehicles 3 days in a row. Is this the new normal or a specialized military operation? There has been additional special operations that I know of, but Russians have not confirmed it, so I cannot talk about it. Danop, why does no one talk about how years ago the Russians saved Trump from total bankruptcy by buying his real estate for more than double the value? I mean, I'm pretty sure that has been talked about plenty, just not on this channel because I don't give a shit. Russell Whiskey, are there still North Korean troops fighting for Russia? Yes. Jeff, did U.S. Attorney Jessica? I don't know. TM, how big danger do you think the Baltics are in short and long term? It seems even if war ends tomorrow, Russians will have to keep a lot of forces around occupied territories still. Russia will, the war will not end tomorrow. Baltics right now are not in big danger because Russia is super preoccupied in Ukraine. Baltics understand it very well, so they reinforce the border with Russia and they reinforce Ukraine as much as they can. Andrew Millington, check out the latest 5,000 missiles sent by UK, including the sophisticated launch system. Ukraine will be helped to manufacture more missiles for the same systems. Grats, thank you so much to UK. Thank you so much for any help to Ukraine. Please support Ukraine. Okay, sorry again. Don't say sorry. Like if I was pissed about something and said something that you think I was offended about, you're wrong. I was never offended by anything. I am just very, 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 how do you say? This is just the way that I talk. Our current the public respects and Sand. What? Leland Bowman, our current public response and Sanders. Our current public response and Sanders. Yes? Benjamin, will there be free and fair elections in USA in 2 years' time? I don't know, depends on if you will preserve your democracy. Leland Bowman, are the Sanders AOC rallies, our town's hall anger in legislations a sign that US public is ready to fight? No, I don't think so. Ian Roberts, is your smack better than mine? Yes. Jansen Radler, so you think countries being the asshole preventing the EU from giving all the frozen Russians money to Ukraine? So which country? Belgium. I meant North Koreans. Thank you so much for the explanations. Tom O'Malley, will South Korea help Ukraine further? South Korea is helping Ukraine by proxy. They're not doing it directly, but they're helping it by proxy, but not a lot. Haji, 2 days ago, Russian draft exemptions changed dramatically. Do you know any of the changes? Please tell us. Tell what this portends. Right now, nothing much. If the changes that you mean are what I've heard, Haji, can you write a little bit more precise? What exact changes do you mean? Maybe it's either slipped me and so on. I'm trying to, because it wasn't really reported on many sources, because it's not really something that I noted about. Caitlin T, there were rumors at some point that Chinese troops were going to join the Russians in Ukraine, possibility of logistics. Any news on that, or was that BS? No, China is not looking for open conflict right now. They are enjoying the situation right now. They are allowing the individuals to join to fight for Russia, for sure. Okay, that's the end of the questions. Great. So we can move to talking about Tucker Carlson. Let's move to talk about Tucker Carlson. Daniel, Europe must join the conflict. Yes, yes, I agree. Thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. Zarson, yes. Okay, let's see. Kremlin Carlson. Yes. Let's be very clear. So we're just gonna be commenting on Carlson said. Let's outline the position outright. I think Witkoff is a fool, and I think he's a tool, and I think Carlson is a Russian, I would say Russian agent. I am almost completely confident that Carlson is getting paid by Russia to say and do whatever he does. I am like 99% confident. So if he's being directly paid by Russian, like, because I separate between a Russian agent and a Russian asset. Like a Russian asset may be something that Russia employs one way or another, but not necessarily something that they kind of sponsor and promote directly. I think the Carlson falls into the agent category, like maybe not official, like nickname and so on, but I truly believe so. And Witkoff is a major fool. Like the only thing that he's supposedly good for is that he's made some kind of ceasefire agreement between the Palestinians and Israelis. And as we know now that there is apparently no ceasefire agreement, so it all went to shit. Therefore, he achieved nothing. He does nothing. He just has a lot of money. And which just proved me once again that you don't have to be really, really thoughtful and smart to get rich. That money earned is not directly corresponding to whatever they do. Okay, we covered the small nation part already a little bit earlier today about the fact that nuclear weapons and that Ukraine was the third biggest nuclear power in the world. And it gave weapons away for the benefit of humanity, which caused now for people to just disregard Ukraine as a small nation and supposedly irrelevant to the world. We already tackled that and so on. So let's continue on. Okay. So what is highlight here? But I believe that we made more progress in this Russia-Ukraine conflict in the last 8 weeks than anyone thought we could ever make. The answer is no. They progressed pretty much none. Like they started shadow diplomacy by basically conceding to Russians everything and giving Russians all of the best presents that they ever could hope for by stopping the aid to Ukraine and trying to dismantling NATO. Putin is looking at what the Trump's administration did and basically is glad that US is doing Russia's job for them. And their stating was like, well, if you're such a great tools, we are gladly gonna be talking with you. So no, like the only progress that these guys have supposedly achieved is a progress of dismantling the might of US that there was and putting them in a position where Russia can do anything that they want with them. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I've heard this. So Witkov again stated that it's a total fact that Ukrainians are encircled in Kursk. Just like the day before, was it CIA that even CIA acknowledged and said like, no. It was actually stated that Ukrainians are not encircled in Kursk, and they, as we covered before today, they orderly withdrew because the situation was going bad. But Trump and his administration and Witkov, by being a fool, they just listened to Putin, looked the guy in the eye and saw that he's telling them the truth. And therefore, they just believed Putin rather than believing any kind of intelligence about the situation on the ground. So they're just confirming that they're absolute tools with this here. I support Ukraine. I write Ukraine. Yes. Moved Russia in a ways. Oh yeah. This again. I think we have moved Russia in a ways that no one thought was possible. Well, that's actually true. Like he's totally accurate here, stating that they have moved Russia in a ways that no one was expecting. No one was truly expecting that Russia will be able to move into the White House so quickly. Everyone was expecting that maybe if US will fall, it's gonna at least take some time. That not the whole fucking apparatus is just gonna surrender to Putin and his cronies, and that US and US state government will fall, US federal government will fall to Russia before Ukraine even loses the town of Pokrovsk. Insanity. So definitely no one was expecting that. They've never talked about the reinstituting the Black Sea moratorium on maritime hits. Russia haven't talked about the Black Sea moratorium because Ukraine has kicked Russian ass in the Black Sea, and Russia has been shuffled back to their pitiful harbors where they hide from the Ukrainian naval drones that Ukrainians have now modified to be basically an naval, what is not naval, but like the carriers class naval drones. Now they're carrying multiple drones, and they're basically destroying Russian radar equipment all along the coastline in Crimea. Insane footage coming out from there. It's like, maybe I'm gonna cover it in the next video. It's hilarious that Ukrainians just getting these naval drones all across the coastline and just Russian like millions, just like destroying this impressive radar equipment that they have in Crimea. Very nice. What is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is a 30-day ceasefire. Okay, so this is the main point of the Trump's administration. If someone still hasn't realized, Trump administration isn't trying to achieve any specific goal. They don't have like a goal for like what kind of peace do they want, what kind of a world do they want to have after this. They don't have that. They don't have the vision. The only thing they want is like let's just end this. Like let's end this right now. It needs to stop now and for the duration of the Trump administration. That's it. That's all they want. Everything else is secondary. They're not interested in peace, any kind of responsible peace, anything like this. More importantly, they're even talking about potentially Ukraine should give some territories to Russia, which is a complete bullshit. Yes, I'm very optimistic that we can bring two sides together. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Ukrainian armed forces are pretty close to Russians. Okay, core issues in Russia-Ukraine conflict. This is where we kind of start reading a little bit in depth. So Tucker says, and I'm going to try to answer this question as best as I can. Tucker says, so Russia, Putin has been in power for 25 years. Yeah, I wonder how that happened. Has been consistent for the whole duration of his presidency in one demand, which is that NATO stop encroaching on its borders, and specifically that Ukraine, which is the largest country that borders Russia, not be in NATO. And that's my understanding. My certainty is that it still remains the central demand period. No, Ukraine and NATO can have peace without that, in the same way that Israel doesn't want Hamas on its borders. They don't want that. What can the US deliver on that? Okay, so let's talk about the NATO. We talked already extensively that Russia doesn't perceive NATO as a threat, and that the most obvious proof for that is that Russia pulled so many soldiers from the border line with NATO, like the Baltic countries, Finland. They pulled almost all battle-capable soldiers from that area and almost all battle-capable equipment from that area. To be honest, I think if Latvia or like Estonia wanted, Estonia could have like marched and captured like maybe if not Moscow, then at least St. Petersburg, just because there's like little to no forces in the area just at all. That's how bad it is. So Russia obviously and clearly doesn't see NATO as a threat. We already discussed this. But more importantly, Russian demands for NATO is not that NATO is not going to encroach on this. If you will remember, then Putin outlined his demands very specifically at the start, before he invaded Ukraine in a full scale in 2022. At the end of the 2021, Putin came out and Lavrov rolled out a whole list of requirements from NATO that Russia had, which was basically stating that everything that was happening with NATO enlargement past basically Germany should be rolled back, and there should be no forces, no bases, no protection for the countries past the eastern border of Germany. So that is not a serious discussion about NATO. It's a dream state scenario. And again, we're talking here about the sovereignty of the nation and what it means to be sovereign. And sovereignty is being demonstrated by the Ukrainians right now. Sovereignty is killing any and all people that come and cross the line of your country. And being an alliance means you help your allies when that is happening. If you stop helping your allies protecting their sovereignty, you are not an ally, you're a hindrance and a potential threat to sovereignty. Ukraine recognizes that. That's why any kind of peace that Trump's administration thinks they will be able to achieve by discussing it with Russia is just a silly wet dream that has no basis in reality. But Ukraine understands that diplomacy is needed, while they are getting some help both with the previously allocated help from the Biden administration. Thank you for that, at least, Joe. And more importantly, the private individual and companies that are working to help Ukraine daily. Because no matter what Donald Trump says, majority of people in the United States still support Ukraine. Let's go further. Yeah, this was the famous Witkov, the great negotiator about Ukraine, says, yes, there's like large issue. There is this issue. There is like, first of all, I think the large issue in the conflict are the so-called 4 regions. Donbas, Crimea, Donbas, by the way, not a region. Crimea, you know the names. I was like, yeah, great. So Russia is interested. Russia has aggressively written the 4 regions, to be honest, like 5 regions of Ukraine into its constitution. Obviously, there is no precedent for that. There is absolutely no indication that this can be in any way legal. But then again, as I said, like the world order is kind of gone. So the notion of any kind of legality is, to be honest, is a little bit mute by this point of relationship with Russia. So Russia tried to essentially annex the 4 regions of Ukraine, but the interesting part is that it tried to annex this kind of by taking a loan on these regions. What Russia did is they controlled some parts in these 4 regions, like in the region of Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, and Crimea. The only region that they control fully is Crimea. So they annexed it in 2014. Then the other 4 regions, they have some land that they control in those regions, but notably, they don't even control, except for Luhansk and Donetsk, they don't even control the main centers of population in those cities such as Kherson, which was liberated by Ukrainians, or Zaporizhia, which Russians are actually not even freaking close to, where the majority of people live. A lot of those are just like areas or smaller villages. Bigger cities in those areas, Russia have not really captured, except for Mariupol that it was able to capture during the initial onslaught. And Ukrainians are still failing to liberate it, and Mariupol was also a big fight, and Russia basically was forced to almost completely destroy it. Since then, Russia has struggled to make progress. Whenever we're looking at the battle map and we're seeing, oh, Russia is advancing on the east, it looks scary. However, when we're starting to compare what is the actual progress, like for example, you can try Googling like how much land Russia captured during the year. And then you find out very quickly that during the year, Russia barely captured any land. That compared to the territory of Ukraine, it's miserable. But more importantly, if you start looking in details what exactly Russia captured, then it becomes even more depressing for any kind of Russian supporter, because the territory that they captured for the most part consists of semi-no-name villages or small settlements, maybe a small towns of like couple tens of thousands people, but we're not even close to capturing any kind of a big populated settlement, like some like over 100,000, maybe 200, 300,000, and so on. So not even talking about even closely approaching a city that could consist of like many hundred thousands to a million, such as Zaporizhia or Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, or so on. Russia has not been able to do so, and they are struggling. Moreover, they're sustaining insane casualties while doing so. The only thing that they were able to do is they were able to essentially write these 4 regions into their Russian constitution by a phony name, as saying essentially they can do the same with, let's say, Alaska tomorrow, or the same because, for example, US just decides and writes Canada as a 51st state tomorrow in their constitution, or whatever you have. Like, it can be decided by the courts or whatever, signed inside of US, but it doesn't change the fact that, for example, US would still at that moment not physically control Canada. We can talk about potentially US invading Canada, but that's beyond the point. The point is like that if they don't control it, they can write whatever they want, but it's not more than the toilet paper. So right now, Russia has basically a toilet paper with the name of 4 regions that it has written into its constitution. And they're showing this toilet paper to Witkoff. And Witkoff is looking at toilet paper that is smeared with a little bit of Putin shit. And he's looking at it and sniffing it and says, man, it smells beautiful. I think this is what we want to see, and we would like to have more of it. Dear Mr. President Putin, could I have more? And then he says, yes, of course. Then he takes that toilet paper, shoves it up his butt, screws it around, and then unveils that it's a big portrait, big, beautiful portrait of President Trump. That was the discussion of Stephen Witkoff with President Putin, after which he said, President Putin is amazing. He presented me with a great portrait of President Trump, and he stated that there are 4 regions of Ukraine that Russia technically control, whereas, how I explained recently, they control jack shit. Moreover, they're struggling to even advance in those regions. And we're not even talking about the main parts that Russia even wants to achieve, because Russia does not really want these regions. Later on in this interview, Stephen Witkoff talks about that Russia would like to just get this region of Novorossiya, these 4 regions that have outlined. But he fails to mention that Novorossiya also has some other areas of Ukraine written as Novorossiya, such as Odessa. And if you look at the map that we have here, then you notice one very particular thing. Odessa is located right over here. The red area is what Russia controls. The green area is where Russia got their ass handed to them and were kicked out by Ukrainians. So not only Russia was, as you can see, never close by the green area to Odessa, they were also kicked out and moved much further than they were from Odessa. So when Russia says we want to control Novorossiya, what they actually state is they want to control basically this whole area and cut off the Ukrainian access to the Black Sea, period. And therefore, we're not talking about the 4 regions anymore. We're talking about additional regions, regions around Mykolaiv, regions around Odessa as well, going all the way to Moldova to interlink with their proxies around the Transnistria region. But even that is not the full extent of the Russian desires, because everything is becoming absolutely clear that they The only thing that they want is they want the Kiev to be controlled by some pro-Russian oligarch. They want Ukraine essentially partitioned like it has happened to the Commonwealth, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. They're expecting the partitioning of this, and they're expecting Trump to participate in this. The issue of this is that they want to coerce Trump to basically sign off and stop supplying weapons to Ukraine, allowing for that partitioning. The issue for Russia is that we're not in those ages anymore, and more importantly, there are other countries that understand what is at stake, and they are acting to make that happen. And Europeans will not betray Ukraine in the same way, at least for the next 2.5 years, because we are expecting some kind of period of relative political stability. Therefore, the discussion that Witkoff had with regards to Russia about how beautiful this portrait has showed one only specific thing, that why Trump cannot really ever be on the same wavelength as Zelensky, which is that Zelensky does not shove some weird paper with weird text into his butthole and present it as a great present to glorious, ultimately all-powerful leader of the universe, President Trump, that he loves deeply and that he bought the assets and saved his ass sometime before, as mentioned by this chat. But it is done because Zelensky wants some kind of fair negotiations, and he wants Ukraine to be treated as a third world nuclear power that actually worked with United States for the greater good. And if the United States is not acknowledging this, that it's United States problems, not Ukraine. Ukraine will try to do everything to keep the help from United States, but they also understand that the best defense that they have against the Russians and the Russian occupation of the Ukrainian regions is the Ukrainian armed forces, and they're investing into those heavily. More importantly, they're motivating their allies to invest into Ukrainian armed forces heavily, and we are seeing it happen. All these dancing and jokes and Witkoffs and other asshole sniffers that are going to Russia and talking about how great Putin is, that they would like to repeat the restart of the, as acknowledged by Tucker Carlson, with the Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and everything that united all of those three was that they tried to look Putin in the eye and acknowledge that he is a fair man that is worth dealing with. All of them got betrayed. All of them got their asses handed to by Russia. This will not be as an exception. The only difference is that Ukraine has acknowledged their autonomy. Ukraine has acknowledged their agency, and they are trying to butter up Trump so allow continued supplies of weapons flowing to Ukraine. But they are playing their own game, and everything else is secondary. The war is not ending. Ceasefire is not coming. Support Ukrainian armed forces, because that is the best, the democratically elected and people selected negotiating team that is able to convince over 900,000 Russians to stop participating in this war. There we go. That's what I think about. That's what I think about Witkoff's discussion with Tucker Carlson. I hope it was understandable. All right. Andy Lee Robinson gifted 20 Ukraine members memberships. Thank you so much. That was great. QR, thank you so much for 500 Czech koruna. Hi, Georgie. Let's be fair to Mr. Witkoff. There has been progress in the USA-Russia talks. They've progressed from Munich agreement phase to the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact phase of talks. To hell with Trump and his lackey Slavo-Ukrainian. Agree completely. That's why I like seeing, as I said, that's why I really like seeing that European Union really is looking to ditch the US relationship with regards to the military industry as much as they can, and focus on developing their own industry. And as I was looking to specifically see whether or not what is being done right now by the European politicians is just a lip service to Trump to butter him up, or they're really still trying to believe in that old world rule-based order. But it's very clear for me that they don't, that they see the picture pretty much for what it is, and they just pretending for the sake of Trump. It's a one viewers theater, something like this. So there's like one participant, one you got what I'm saying. It's like they are just playing to make it presentation for Trump, while in actual reality they're investing heavily to be autonomous and to set up their own agency. All right. Did you see recent Russian reach on the White House series of Peter Zeihan? Peter Zeihan has been one of the most wrong person I've seen on the internet. His takes are some of the most wrong ones and one of the out there's, and people listen to him and eat his shit up because, like, I cannot pretend, like, he has the charisma. Like, you can like it. You can like the charisma. You can see, like, Peter Zeihan is maybe, like, you like what he talks. But I can tell you for sure, like, his takes on Russia, Ukraine, and so on are taken out of the ass. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But, like, he talks really well, better than I do, so people love him more. So, that's fine. Could you spell that? He has no clue. Hehasnoclua. He has no clue. Okay. Let's answer a couple of questions, guys, and I'm gonna slowly wrap it up. Is Europe seriously investing in drone force? Yes. Jason Brokelback, Ukrainians should be able to invite any army they want to Ukraine as Putin did. Yes, but the problem is that not every army wants to go to Ukraine. Like, look, as I explained for many people, and actually explained to this viewer of this channel, which I'm grateful that I met in Germany, is that right now the biggest problem of Europe is a deficit of balls. We are having trouble finding our balls that would, you know, be even comparable closely to the ones that Zelensky has. The issue is that we have armies, and supposedly we would like to send those armies to Ukraine, but everyone is like, oh, we're not going to send armies to Ukraine unless United States is going to help us protect them. Then United States says we're not going to protect them. Then it's like, oh, we're not going to send the armies into Ukraine unless United Nations is going to sign off on this. And then United Nations said, we're not going to sign off on this. And then, like, they said, like, well, maybe we're not going to send armies into Ukraine to protect the peace, then maybe. So there is nothing that is stopping Europeans to right now get the forces to stop Russia bombing the Ukrainian cities and prevent killing of civilians. Nothing will happen. There is not going to be any kind of nuclear war. Like, it's a first, like this, oh, Georgie, you're just asking for nuclear war. No, it's not going to be any nuclear war. There's nothing. It's all myth. Putin is not going to do it. He understands where he is. But we have the lack of balls. There is no balls in the current political environment to take that risk, to send and do the right thing to protect the civilians from being killed. No one wants to do that. So we are where we are. In Europe, we're trying to pretend that we are supporting Ukraine from everything that we can, yet we cannot find the balls when the push comes to shove. Ukrainians are fighting not because they want to fight, not because they love the war. There is no nation in European continent that wants peace more than Ukrainians. And they're fighting for that peace. We are ready to invest in our defense. We are ready to talk, take political action. We were able to spend some of our free change to support Ukraine beforehand. Now it seems that we are ready to not just spare the change that we had, like, or send some of our old equipment, or maybe build additional factory or two in Europe. Now it seems that we're even actually ready to take a little bit of a hit, you know, like maybe don't go to that coffee shop on every Sunday. Like maybe don't buy that cake every Thursday. Maybe instead of a spaghetti evening on Thursday, maybe you can make like just a homemade meal that is like a lot cheaper than that. We're ready to take some of that, but we're not ready yet to do what it needs to be done. European nation, European politicians, people, we are not there. We are not ready for what's coming. We are not ready to stand up to the challenge. The only nation that is doing it is Ukraine. So that's why it's so important to support Ukraine, because Ukrainians, they are in that state of mind where they need to be. For us, the life goes on. We're considering debt limits. We're considering the grocery prices. We're considering whether or not we're going to have lights for our Christmas tree next December. It is all fluff. It all can be a bit secondary if it would be like, well, we really need to protect the European continent from becoming the continent of war once again. But that desire right now is mostly in the words. In actions, we're still not there. And the fact that we're not ready to close the skies over Ukraine, to shut down Russian missiles, to protect the safe areas even of Ukraine with our troops, means that we are just not ready. So we have the lack of balls crisis in Europe. Okay, a couple more questions. Sub AVAX, yes. Yes, I have some info on that. There has been an article on military. So sub AWACSs are en route. Sub AWACS right now being like reconfigured to work with the Ukrainian F-16s, and the reports are that they're going to be delivered on schedule. So yes, say sub AWACSs are coming to Ukraine. CJ Green, do you think that Trump has the power to get between our friendship? Not between yours and mine. You are my friend, and no orange man will stand between us. No homo. Just looking for like a last good question, like what kind of schedule is below? So for people that asking what kind of schedule it is, below, can you write in chat, please? And I'm pretty sure the chat will answer you this. Why do you think you should know? Like without not writing in caps the question what the schedule is, question mark, question mark, question mark. But instead, like, can you express in chat your open like thought about why do you think it is you that should know the schedule of delivery these highly sophisticated machines to Ukraine? And I'm pretty sure people will help you out with explaining where is the issue. David Barton, do you think Trump will invest in Russia? For example, the Gazprom skyscraper in St. Petersburg? Yeah, of course. Why not? It's all money. Trump has no morals. It's all money. What is new with the mysterious mineral deal? Yeah, Martin. Yeah, you're right. No more mineral deal. Now the new thing is like the Ukrainian power plants. It's hilarious. Like mineral deal just gone. Like all of this, like 500 billion gone. So on. Okay, last question. Morocco wins the last question. I couldn't find any really cool question. Well, wait. Les is asking, is UK, Europe, Morocco, I will get to your question, but first, Les, is UK, Europe will stand up for Canada if Trump keeps financially choking Canada? I think so. There is certain issues with this. The problem, like, for example, with Canada joining the EU, because I was looking like for good arguments why Canada shouldn't join the EU, and then someone pointed out to me the issue why Canada shouldn't join the EU. So if you look at the map, like, so people have pointed out to me, and I kind of like didn't realize it. So thank you so much to the people that pointed it out. So if you look at the map of the world, you can see that there is Europe, and then there is Canada, really big one. And then there is this like big light blue thing in the middle. So, and then someone says, Georgie, it's expensive to send stuff through that big blue thing. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So the problem of joining the free market with Europe is that Canada will automatically be having issues trading with Europe because the flow of goods is not land-based, and it's going to be pretty expensive. It's because it's going to be harder for Canada to compete in an open market with the goods. So instead, what Canada should do is mostly focus on more free trade agreements for the goods that Europeans specifically need, such as the idea of building more liquefied natural gas terminals on the East Coast to substitute either American liquefied natural gas or even Russian liquefied natural gas that is being right now supplied to Europe. So I think something like that is a better start. So thank you so much for people that explained to me about the big blue thing. I really appreciate it. The more you know, right? Do you know you are very appreciated, Georges? Thank you. Yes, I hope so. My Rocco, I promise to come back to your question. So, will you substitute pho soup for spaghetti? No. No, 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 no. Never. Never, 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 never. The pho soup is the best. I will never substitute pho soup for spaghetti. If someone didn't know, that's probably like my favorite soup in the world. Like pho is just great. It's incredible. I can eat that thing so much. One of the best things the world has invented. Pho soup, not pho soup, pho soup. All right. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here with me. As I said, I'm sorry if it wasn't as emotional or as high pitch for you as it may be some other time. I've been traveling. I've been tired. I'm going to try to release video tomorrow. I hope this will kind of satiate you for this now today. I love you. Slava Ukraini. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like. I love you. And I'll see you next time.